I feel that things in the crypto space are about to get very interesting. A lot of things have been unfolding over the last kind of 24-48 hours, and I'm going to share my thoughts and opinions in today's video. Let's roll that intro and get right down into it. So hi and welcome back to another walk and talk video, and today guys I think I'm going to start off by apologising. I have got a little bit of man flu kind of brewing here, and it is going to be potentially causing me a little bit of difficulty in today's walk and talk video, so I apologise for any coughs, sneezes, sniffles and more out of breath moments in today's walk and talk video. But we are of course going to be getting right down into this subject matter, right? So Bitcoin, I think, is going to start to see a little bit more in the way of volatility over the next probably week or so. I think we're going to potentially see moves in both directions, quite rapid moves, I think, as the market really tries to recover from what's already happened and get rejected. Because I think inevitably our moves are to the downside after the 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 news event. There's very little hype left in Q1 this year. There might be a little bit to the latter part, specifically as we start thinking about, you know, Bitcoin spot ETF approvals and things like that. So today, being Sunday, weekly close, I would expect to see some volatility there. Maybe the bulls trying to get a stronger close on the weekly, and the bears obviously trying to continue to suppress the price of BTC and Bitcoin and all that kind of good stuff. So I think for the most part we need to kind of discuss what's going on with some data for Bitcoin. And what we have seen most recently in the last few days or so is more Bitcoin inflows to the exchanges. Now, I don't really talk about this, or haven't been talking about this as much as I used to back in like 2022. And I really did have a problem with trying to find good, accurate source of information for the inflows and outflows data. And reflecting on what's currently out there, now I have kind of aggregated a year's worth of data from a select few exchanges, we can see that the market, it was kind of being propped up. And I spoke about this a little while ago, right? It was being propped up because there was a lot of outflows of Bitcoin from the exchanges, and as you know on the channel we talk about a lot how supply and demand is absolutely everything when it comes to price action, right? And supply and demand is critically important to understand if we want to predict, you know, whether the market's going to go up or go down at a macro level. And during 2023, we saw a lot of outflows from the exchanges, and this essentially meant there was less Bitcoin available for purchase. Less Bitcoin available for purchase essentially meant that price was going up, even with a small, insufficient amount of demand for Bitcoin. We are now seeing the opposite be true. We've seen a lot more inflows to exchanges for Bitcoin, and what that's essentially going to mean at a macro scale is that price goes back down unless of course demand increases. Now, considering the Bitcoin spot ETFs are now live, I'm not so sure we're going to see that increase in demand just yet. I do think the demand is likely to increase, and I've said this many times already on the channel, and I'll continue to do so. Essentially, that the Bitcoin spot ETFs will essentially, at some point in the future, start to accrue more Bitcoin into them. It isn't going to happen right away, and I've said this many times, and one of the reasons and the logics and the rationale behind why we were so adamant that we were going to see a 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 news event was that it was only logical that, you know, the Bitcoin spot ETFs going live were going to see a move to the downside as a 𝗕𝗘𝗪𝗔𝗥𝗘 news event. People who were speculating on the price of Bitcoin because of the Bitcoin spot ETFs were essentially doing so ahead of time, and they were basically getting involved before the news kind of broke. And so with the Bitcoin spot ETFs kind of finally out of the way, I feel that there is very little to increase the demand at the moment. And so with Bitcoin flowing to the exchanges in the way that we have seen most recently, this is potentially going to be a bit of a bearish situation that BTC finds itself in. Now, the good news is that I don't think this is going to be a long-term thing. I think that 2024 and 2025 are going to be fantastic years for the cryptocurrency space. But we do have to appreciate that moves to the downside come and, almost awkward, or when people just don't want it to happen, and all that kind of stuff. And I think this is quite a natural and healthy move that I'm looking for Bitcoin, right? And I kind of put a video out this morning talking about where I think the likelihood is that Bitcoin is going to kind of slow down and stop, right? And so we were taking a look at the Guardian channel, and we can see that its upper band area, which could be a good area of support, is coinciding with another area of consolidation previously in the price action for Bitcoin. And so 30k Bitcoin seems to be the most logical kind of place for BTC to kind of stop, which would be about a 35% crash in the market, which is actually quite tame for Bitcoin. Now, with this kind of move happening, I think it's going to be a huge opportunity to kind of dollar cost average, build those positions as per yesterday's video. And I kind of go through kind of why I think all of those things. So the inflows to the exchanges at the moment, they can be a little bit alarming. We have seen a very significant increase in that, and I don't think it's really done just yet. Now, I also was checking earlier this morning the wallet counts to see, is there any supply being soaked up at any particular level? And at the moment, there isn't. We haven't really got any buying pressure from specific wallet sizes either. So, and this is across the board, I will add, which means we actually see a little bit of selling pressure across most wallet counts. And I say selling pressure, what I mean by that is Bitcoin flowing out of those wallets to the exchange wallets. And so we're not really getting any indication that there's some people soaking up that supply at the moment. Hopefully that will change, because I do think as Bitcoin pulls back, the larger institutional level investors are going to be coming to soak up some of that Bitcoin supply. I just don't think it's going to happen in January. I imagine it'll probably be February, March by the time we actually start to see some of those moves. And of course, the US economy is not in a strong way either. I know that kind of goes against the grain of what some people might tell you, but with inflation still on the rise, higher than expected, the Federal Reserve are put into a really difficult position. The US banking sector as well, also not looking as strong. Potentially some regional banks also having some difficulties because of the way that inflation has gone, and that's affecting the bonds, and the bonds is what the banks have, and so forth. There's a lot there to unpack, but essentially the US economy is not as strong as maybe some people might want to believe. This puts the Fed at a critical moment where they have to make a decision. They are either going to bail the banks out by printing, or they're going to increase interest rates to kind of attack the inflation. Now, either options will have an impact on the stock market and the crypto market. Now, we know that a Fed pivot is really important for bringing down the price action of the stock market and the crypto market on a temporary basis. It's like a quick flash crash, and then bam, you're off to the races into the bull market. So we want a Fed pivot, but the question just becomes, is really Q1 going to be the point in time where the Fed do pivot and actually reduce their interest rates? We don't know. I think it's a little bit too soon to really know. So it's one to keep a close eye on. Now, if you want to know a little bit more about the price action of Bitcoin, you should probably check out this video right here, where I'm discussing everything that is going on the weekly time frame.